Effectively communicating with our students and families is very important to us in Richland School District 2. Communicating across a language barrier creates a special set of circumstances that can make effective communication quite challenging. It is with this challenge in mind that we want to ensure all faculty and staff in Richland 2 who might potentially communicate with non-English speaking families that they are prepared and equipped to do so. My name is Nathan O'Neill, and I serve as Richland 2's ESOL and Title III Compliance Administrator. In the next few minutes, I'm going to lead you through the protocol of how we use interpretation and translation services in our school district. The purpose of this training is to ensure meaningful access for limited English proficient students, parents, and guardians to all the school and district personnel, resources, and programs that they need. We want to make sure all families have equitable access to a premier education in Richland 2. So let's jump into our protocol for interpreter and translator services by first defining terms. Interpretation is a term we use to describe services provided in speaking and listening contexts, whereas translation is what is provided in written contexts. So, interpreters are working in oral settings, while translators are working in written language. Interpreters and translators hired for official school or district requests should only be selected from Richland 2's approved interpreter and translator list, which includes our 2 Hispanic family liaisons, or from an interpretation or translation service that agrees to abide by our guidelines for interpretation and translation document. To be an interpretation or translation service working for Richland 2, the service must provide evidence of current and appropriate licensure and that their contracted interpreters or translators have received proper training to perform such services. The district will contract with an approved interpreter, translator, or service when parents or guardians require language services, as updated yearly on the annual enrollment form using the written and oral language services fields. It is the district's legal obligation to provide interpretation services and not require parents or guardians to provide their own interpreter or translator. Payment for language services will be handled by the school or the district as well. Parents or guardians will never be required to make payments in any way for language services provided by the school or district. Interpreters and translators are to provide precise and accurate services in either the spoken or written contexts and should never accept tasks requiring services beyond their level of ability and expertise. Interpreters and translators should avoid conflicts of interest that might bias their work in providing language services or jeopardize the neutrality of the services provided. Specifically, language service providers should not be utilized to provide language services for family members or for individuals for which they have previously provided other services, guidance, opinions, or recommendations with specific regard to the matter for which the services are being provided. Specifically working in the oral context, there are a few additional items of the protocol just for interpreters. In most circumstances, interpreters should serve no other role at a meeting except to provide language services so that they may maintain neutrality in the delivery of services. For example, if the interpreter is a school counselor, teacher, or social worker who is also serving as the interpreter, this can needlessly complicate matters for the interpreter and for other participants. However, where a conflict of interest cannot otherwise be avoided through staffing adjustments, the interpreter must obtain a signed written waiver from the parent, guardian, or adult student that acknowledges an understanding that the interpreter's neutrality may be compromised by the fact that he or she is serving simultaneously in more than one role or has past history with the family that may potentially affect their impartiality. A copy of this waiver is included on the Protocol for Approved Interpreters and Translators document, previously emailed to all faculty and staff in Richland School District 2. If the parent, guardian, or adult student is not willing to sign the waiver, the meeting must be rescheduled for the soonest possible date thereafter when the additional staffing may be provided to avoid the potential conflict of interest. Before a meeting facilitated by an interpreter begins, the interpreter must establish ground rules about how the meeting will proceed with language services being provided. It is important that everyone involved in the meeting understands their role and how to proceed effectively. The interpreter must explain to both language parties how the language services will be provided to maximize understanding between parties and maintain a proper flow of conversation. The interpreter must explain the importance of avoiding extraneous side conversations to ensure that all relevant information can be provided in a language that the parent or guardian can understand. The interpreter must explain to families that there are no fees associated with the language services provided by the school or district. And finally, if the interpreter is serving a dual role, reviewing and explaining the need for the written waiver discussed already must be covered and be signed before proceeding. Or, in the alternative, the meeting will be rescheduled to occur as soon as possible with another interpreter. If you have any questions about the protocol for interpreters or translators or the waiver, please direct them to your direct supervisor or administrator or to the following district personnel: Nathan O'Neill, Dr. Sean Suber, or Dr. Shirley Vickery. If you are fully bilingual at a professional level and are interested in joining our official interpreter and translator list, please direct inquiries to yours truly, Nathan O'Neill. Kamsahamnida, sheshe, shukran, merci, kamon, gracias. Thank you very much for your kind attention to this very important matter.